I was lucky enough to get a training camp gig with Phoenix Mercury in the WNBA. Boom! Got cut.
Yeah.
Boom! Right there.
Yeah.
Take it to the heart. So within a week, literally 7 days, I got cut from two of my biggest dreams ever. It's hard to listen to advice until you want to listen to advice.
True. Overwhelm with niceness.
Niceness.
Did you get that? Overwhelm with niceness.
And I'm a big lover of life. So happiness is just my number one motto and key, I think.
Hello and welcome to Under the Surface. I'm your host, Anneli and Maley, and I'm here with Sara Blicavs. This is Pumped by Reebok. We're so happy to have you here.
Sara Blicavs, most commonly known as Sari Berry Fairy. Thank you, Anneli, for having me.
Yeah, she's in my phone as Sara Berry Fairy, but before we start, we've got a gift for you.
Already?
Yeah.
Does that mean I just take the gift and leave?
Yeah, you don't even have to do the episode. These gifts, if you go to Chadston, you can get these very same things. There's the 30% off on their Black Friday sales at the moment.
Colourway.
Yeah.
The colourway. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so
thank you, Anneli.
You should be expecting to see Sara rocking some of those Reebok pre-game fits, maybe for the WNBA.
Oh, no, thank you. That's awesome. I see you all rocking out your Reebok as well.
Yeah, represent.
Yeah.
Every home game I wear them to the little, we do like the tunnel picks now.
I do see that.
So I fit myself
Swaggy.
out. I walk in, but here's a pro tip for the tunnel picks. Get a coffee so you always have something in your hand.
So you don't look awkward.
So you don't look awkward.
We don't take tunnel pics, but we used to, and I get that.
Yeah.
I understand that. So then
Yeah.
your hands can look cute holding a coffee
Yeah.
rather than just standing there.
The
frozen.
first coffee for the first game wasn't even mine because I found when I walked in, the first couple of pics I took, I threw up like gang signs. I was like, what is this?
No.
I was like, yeah. And
Regrets.
then they went back and they were like, do you want to do that again? I was like, yes, please. And I grabbed someone else's coffee cup because I was like, what is this? And why did I come upwards? Like,
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's either that or it's the piece. And I'm like, why am I doing this right now?
Well, yeah, anyway,
Why?
so that's great. So just for the people that don't know you, get the spiel. I mean, I could probably do it pretty well. She's an Olympian. She's been to the WNBA. She's got WNBL championships. She's done everything. She's also a business owner. But let's start with the sports stuff, and then we'll get into the life. Give us your spiel. Who is
My
Sara?
spiel. I don't see myself as a basketball player, but I guess I am because that's all I've really done my whole entire life. So I started at the ripe old age of 10. I think I started playing domestic.
Wow.
I was doing athletics at the time.
Wow.
I was doing athletics at the time, and I honestly had aspirations of making the Olympics for athletics in the 1,500 metres or the 400-metre hurdles.
That's so random.
Very random.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. I look back at that now and I just think, thank God I'm not in that anymore. Decided to retire at age 14, I think it was.
Athletics.
Yes, I was like, see you individual sports. I can't stand you. Sticking with the team stuff.
I also imagine like hitting your shin on a hurdle would give the same vibes as like raise a scooter to
Correct.
the shin.
Absolute exact same vibes. Yes, that has happened many a times too. And then, just the typical pathways that a lot of, I guess, WNBL players have had where they go to the Institute of Sport. And then I was lucky enough to get picked up by Dandenong Rangers back then into the WNBL when I was 19. And then
That's
here we
wild.
are.
How many seasons have you played in the WNBL?
I'm playing 15.
Wow!
I'm a veteran. Let me hit you with this. This killed my soul. I'm the oldest on our team. I'm only 30. That's not that old.
That's not old.
Only 30.
You're only 30.
Right?
You're not old.
I'm not old. I was the middle of the pack last year at the Flyers.
Yeah.
I'm the oldest on the team. And I get told that all the time.
That's wild, man.
And I feel that all the time, though.
You know what?
In the knees.
You don't
right in the knees.
only in the knees. You don't give veteran vibes in the oldie way, you know what I mean?
No,
like in your
it's a
head you
great
think veteran
skincare
and you think,
routine.
yeah, that's what it is.
Great skincare.
That's what it is.
routine.
But like that's wild. 15 seasons, what the hell?
Yeah.
Where has the time gone?
I don't know, but it's been a journey and I've enjoyed some of it. Most of it, I'd like to say.
I mean, I'd like to think at least 50%.
Yeah,
you know?
at least.
Like-
I would say probably like 70%, I would say, yes.
So that's your quick little basketball blurb. Like you very graciously didn't involve the WNBA or really the fact that you went to an Olympics in there. We'll just, we might get to that later. But I think I want to, before I kind of dial it back, I want to ask who you are now outside of the sport. What's going on in the outside life? We know you have a business, but talk to us about that side of your life.
Yes. Well, I'm a big beacher and I'm a big lover of life. So happiness is just my number one motto and key, I think. And I think just it's something that you've learned as you've gotten older, and I'm sure you can understand this as well, that you just hit a point where you're like, why do we stress so much about putting like a dirty little rubber ball in a hoop? Honestly, it does my head in, and I'm sick of it doing my head in. Yeah. So to me, like the most important thing in life is relationships and family. That's huge. And just grounding yourself and doing what makes you happy. And so for me, I live in Geelong, and like that's what I'm all about over there. And just trying to be in the best mindset all the time. And so I do things that make me happy. I enjoy life, and started my own business.
So cool, man.
Yeah, which is fun and something new and different and exciting, and trying to challenge myself in that aspect as well. And yeah, here we are.
So what's your business?
Oh, well,
tell me.
It's women's underwear. It's called Sara Kristi, so first and middle name. I'm the face of it as well, so I just thought very vain. Why not? Let's throw myself out there.
Makes sense.
And yeah, I was just. Do you want the whole story on how it was created?
Go.
Okay. Well, maybe like it would have been 7 or 8 years ago. I was with my manager, and he's Bruce Cater. Should shout him out.
Yeah.
And he was. He sat down with me about, all right, what are you going to do post-basketball? We need to think of all these things, blah, 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 blah. And back then, I was like, nah, no way, ball is life.
Like, this is the only thing I want to do ever, man.
And it's true. And, like, at the time, I'm so stubborn, I couldn't listen to anyone else anyway. So I was like, I have to be in charge of my own thing no matter what.
Yeah.
Sitting behind a computer for 9 to 5 completely is not my thing.
Not your thing.
At all. So I was like, it'd be pretty cool to, like, kind of run my own thing. And at that time I was like, let's do underwear. I just it's needed all the time. I love being in it, so I thought, why not create something like that? So I kind of came up with little designs back then, like 7 years ago.
I didn't realize it was that long ago.
Yeah. Wow. And went to get a logo created. Actually started my Instagram account at that point.
It was by Sara, wasn't it? I remember this.
Yeah. Which I'm so grateful that's not a thing. By Sara is so like, bye Sara. I don't know. Anyway. But then, like I said, at that time, ball is life. All my aspirations and dreams and motivations was basketball and trying to get somewhere with that. So it's really hard to try and build something when you're not that keen.
Yeah, because all of your passion is in the one space.
Yeah.
And like starting a business, I imagine, takes a lot of passion and energy, right?
Exactly right. Exactly right. So then I was lucky enough to get a training camp gig with Phoenix Mercury in the WNBA. And then, boom, got cut. Yeah. Boom! Right there, dagger to the heart.
Yep.
And at that time, I was obviously super passionate about basketball. I felt like I was in a really good spot where I was just like hitting my potential, you know what I mean? So that right there was a massive punch to the face. And then a week later, I got cut from the Australian Olympic team. So
you were in quarantine.
And I was in quarantine.
Right? Yeah.
So within a week, literally 7 days, I got cut from 2 of my biggest dreams ever. And I was just fucked.
Yeah. Seriously.
I had 1 week left in hotel quarantine. I hate using this word, so I kind of put my name in front of it, but I was Sara depressed.
Yeah.
I felt so worthless, so pointless.
Yeah.
I just, like, people were trying to call me that day, mum and dad. I couldn't even speak to them. I was just crying the whole time and sitting in bed. And I'm like, this is crazy, because basketball, as you know, it's your whole identity.
It's everything.
It's everything. And when you're that passionate about something and then it completely gets taken away from you, and you're like...
you're in quarantine.
Yeah.
You have none of your beach. You have none of your plants and your crystals and the things that make you.
I was in a smaller box than this room here.
Yeah.
It was... you couldn't even open a window.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just... It's like... You just don't know what to do with your life, you know?
Yeah.
And then you think, if that's going to get cut, straight away you think you would never be able to make these teams again, because that was your one and only chance.
Yeah.
So you just go so negative on that. And then you're like, well, why am I even playing basketball right now, you know? And then when I got out of... No, it actually happened that week.
Yeah.
Last week of hotel quarantine, I finally got my shit together and spoke to Bruce, my manager, and I was like, nah, let's start creating my own business then. give me a new aspiration, a new goal.
Yeah.
And I actually think getting cut from those two things and also creating a business has just given me a way better outlook on life as well, and realising that basketball's not life. There's way more to it. And I'm just in such a great mental space now because of that.
Yeah.
And having a distraction, I guess, on the other side.
So I'm just trying to pick your brain here. When you're in hotel quarantine, you've just been cut by two things. What was the process to then find the mindset or find the passion to be like, all right, I need to put this energy into something that will grow or something positive? Because I know for a lot of people, that's the hardest first step, is like they experience like being cut from something, or they experience something hard in life. It doesn't even have to be sport related. Do you remember what the steps for like your grieving and your brain process to be like, I need to put my creative energy into something positive?
Yeah. I think it was just anger, honestly. I was so angry. And I feel like being in elite sport and being a professional athlete, you have that drive for greatness.
Yeah.
And this is going to sound so rude, but I just look at like, I don't even know what a normal person is, but I look at some people's lives and I'm like, it's so boring. Why do you not want more?
Yeah.
You know, why do you not want to push yourselves or do more?
Yeah.
That's just how I'm wired.
Yeah.
So again, thinking about my life, I don't want to just go and like sit and work in a cafe for the rest of my life and just do nothing. I have to do something that's a bit harder and more challenging, or something great, you know? Not saying my business is great, it's nowhere near there yet, but like that's what I'm striving for.
That's what you're putting your energy into.
Yeah. So I just think I had that anger, and then I just thought it's time to focus on something completely new. I don't know where the switch, like when it flicked on or something. I can't tell you the exact time. But I was like, no, let's just do it. Like basketball's not life anymore. That chapter's over. Let's move on. Okay, so then at what point after you made the decision to be like, all right, I'm going to put this energy into this business, and then you got a call saying you were going to the Olympics? So I don't want to breeze over that. So I think you need to, how did that happen? Talk to how, what? Because, I remember this. I remember I remember seeing that you got cut from Phoenix, and then I was like, you were posting some stuff when you were in quarantine, and then we saw that you got cut from the Opals, and I remember sitting with Marina being like, Sara can't be okay right now because she's in quarantine. Like, how is she supposed to handle this, deal with this? Like, you were probably getting an influx of messages, and then you make the decision, you know what, business, focus on this. And then you get called to go to the Olympics. So talk, go. Girlfriend, this was the craziest time of my whole entire life. It was like a 2-month period of roller coaster of emotions. I was a shambles. Like, I cannot even describe how wild it was. And like, I've been totally honest about this in other podcasts that I've done and other interviews that I've done. Like, I hated the Opals. I hated the Australian team. And I wasn't even keen. Like, I hadn't lost my passion for basketball, which is good. I went back into NBL 1 and I was still loving it and still playing. But I hated everything else. And literally I was just like, nah, fuck them. I just don't care. I get the call up. I started hearing, like, things were trickling out that, Liz has been a little bit of a shit human. Something's happening over there. We heard there was a slapping. I heard someone punched somebody. I remember as that information was coming out, everyone was like, no, surely not. Surely not. And then there was footage. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Surely there was a slapping. Anyway, so I started hearing that, and I kid you not, I knew that I was an emergency, and I knew that I was probably next in line. And a whole part of me didn't want to get the call up at all. I was just like, oh, please don't call me. I don't want to go. Like, I heard that Liz is going to leave the team, all this stuff. I was so anxious. I was so nervous. I was like, playing with your fingers, all that stuff. And then I ended up getting a call from Sandy. Like, I saw it on my phone, and like, my heart kind of sank. It's crazy to think, right? Crazy to think. This is that's where you were, That's just where I was. Because, that's just the reality of it, And it's not just because of getting cut from the Oz, but with the WNBA too. I just hated that kind of... And COVID on top of it. Everything. And so she called me. I remember her saying, you're going to come to Tokyo. And then she even said, oh, geez, you don't sound that excited. And I was just like, no, I am. This is great. And I hung up. And then it was good because I had to like take 24 hours. I had to leave in like 3 days, but I needed that first one day to like get my shit together.
Yeah.
And I spoke to Dad, like I spoke to all my family, but Dad said, like, Sarah, it doesn't matter how you get to the Olympics, but once you're an Olympian, you're always an Olympian.
You're an Olympian. Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't even matter. Like, this is going to be so cool for you no matter what. May I add, I was so underdone at that point. Like, I was so unfit. Like, I was doing the bare minimum. I was not sharp at all.
You just got out of quarantine in a box of a hotel room.
Yeah, and for the next 2 months, I was like, woo, nights out, let's go. Like, just didn't care. And so I think after I had a nap and an 8-hour nap that night.
Once I had a nap, ate some food, I was like, I'm ready to make a decision.
Literally. And then I was like, oh, you know what? Dad's so right. Like, I get to go to the Olympics. That's so cool. Even better, I don't have to do that awful 1 month preparation where you have to be so mentally switched on and do all that hard work. I'm going for the best 2 weeks of my life.
So fun.
Unreal. So like I said before, thanks Liz Cambage for like pissing off because I got to go to it, and it ended up being the best 2 weeks of my life. Poor girls, like I went into that team and everyone at the start of the tournament was mentally drained. You could just see it from everything that had happened. So obviously it wasn't our best result, but I just went there just for the vibes, had a great time and ended up loving it, which was good. So
I think you can, I mean, I could definitely tell in that World Cup team, the love for the Opals was like refound for everybody. It felt like, I mean, I wasn't really a part of it before that, but it just felt like there was a lot of love there.
Yeah.
It was radiating off you, which is so different to like how that previous version of you was. Like, I just remember like it was just such good vibes. Yeah. You are just good vibes.
It's
That's
good
just how it
vibes.
is.
I mean, and so are you too, right?
Yeah.
And we were just there to have a good time. And it was awesome. And the culture was just way better. Like we'd worked on it, but everyone just enjoyed everyone's company. And I think, again, it was just a bunch of good humans and there was no massive egos I found. Yeah. So it was just really nice. Yeah.
One of the questions that I had sent in the other day, which I think you'd be really good at helping me answer, was about how do you deal with in a team and like witnessing people cutting down other people that are being successful, like in women's sport. Like, so the question was around like her daughter and watching her team and things like that. And it's like, women don't seem to be happy for each other when we succeed. Yeah. What's your experience with that? And how do you kind of counteract that within your own teams?
Oh gosh. I like, that's tough. Yeah. That's such a tough question.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I actually have the answers to that. I think for me personally, I guess the person that you need to listen to the most is the coach, right? Yeah. That's the only opinion that really matters. So if you're good at ignoring people, then that's fine. You just do until the coach tells you to stop doing something. You just keep going with what you're doing, right? And if people aren't happy for you, you switch your mentality to like, that's a compliment, right? Yeah. If they're not happy for you, they're jealous. So you're clearly doing something right.
Tall poppy syndrome is wild in Australia. Yeah. I think in female sport, it's so bad. Yeah. Like why we are not trying to build each other up is unreal.
I don't get it.
Do you have like something maybe in the team you're in now, like in the Boomers, right? Like, do you notice things that people do when you're like, yeah, more of that, like let's lift each other up? Like what do you do as a teammate to try and create that culture within your own team? I guess
I mean, it stems from everyone individually. Like I've always been big on making sure everyone's confident and up and about, but I'm not bullshitting people either. So I'm not going to give you a fake compliment, but I'm always going to let you know your positives and what you're doing well, because losing confidence sucks. I've been there. So why, when you see someone getting attacked by a coach or, by other players, it's like, nah, it's time to uplift that person. And then when you're relaxed and happy and confident, you just play your best basketball too. Yeah. But honestly, it just stems from yourself. I mean, I'm such a strong believer in karma, so I would never tear anyone down, because then I feel like that's going to happen to me or something bad will happen to me. And I just make sure that I'm a good human. And I think, it's just individual. These teams, like you said with Perth, they're rare to find, right? Yeah. When you're on a team where everyone gels and everyone's happy for each other. They're rare to find, and you don't get to be a part of them that often. I think
so special.
It's so special. And I think I've been a part of like maybe 2 of those teams in my whole entire life.
Yeah.
And it's such a nice feeling. So unfortunately, you're always going to have teams with shit people in them, aren't you?
Egos and things like that.
Yeah.
I was really thinking about this because I was like, it's hard because I would say to younger version of myself or young girl that sent in the question, like, if you can lift everyone up around you and be an example of how to build other people up, then you would hope that people would follow. But my second to that is, but don't give too much of your own energy to where you're pouring from an empty cup. So it's like a fine balance, because you don't want to be the only person on the team that's trying to lift everyone up and then you're not getting that same thing.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a fine line, right? Like, because you hope, right? You hope it's infectious. And for the most part, in the right environments, it is. When you lift people up, they will lift you up.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes this really nice environment where it's, and lifting people up and being supported doesn't always look like super happy, positive all the time. It can be holding people accountable. It can be that type of thing. But do you think there is a line between lifting each other up and then pouring out from an empty cup?
I don't know. I just think you can't control everyone and you can't control how people react or other people's emotions. And if you pick your people, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how you pick your friends. And I personally have removed quite a lot of people from my life that I have found drain my energy.
Yeah.
Or they don't reciprocate good vibes, So I think, but again, it's hard when you're a junior because you're still trying to be a part of a team and get somewhere in basketball and all this. And when you become an adult, you don't care as much. It's like, nah, see you, bye.
Yeah, true.
So it's definitely a difficult one. I just think it's all about not letting it affect you and you still be your nice self and you still maybe overwhelm that person with niceness. Is that a word?
Yeah, niceness.
Yes.
The niceness.
So then they just get so irritated that they almost have to accept it, or then they piss off themselves and you have to deal with it.
Yeah, I like that answer actually. Overwhelm with niceness. Did you get that? Overwhelm with niceness. Yeah. Did you get that? Okay. Then the kind of flowing on from there, what would if you got a chance to speak to young baby Sara, what would you say to her, or what advice would you give to her as, like little baby Sara? What would you, if you had the chance to have a conversation with her?
Don't get addicted to hot chips.
Yeah.
Seriously, I love them so much. Sometimes I need to stop.
Not the hot chips. That's my favourite answer I've ever gotten to that question. Don't get addicted to hot chips. You hear that first?
I am though. I love them.
Not the hot chippies.
It's hard. I love this question, but I also hate it at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I think you just need to go through stuff to actually understand and learn. So you could give as much advice as you want, but no one's going to listen to it until they're ready for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've grown up so much in the last few years when it comes to the whole mental aspect, but I would never be able to understand that when I was younger.
Yeah, true.
So for me, which I did anyway, is like, make sure you're always happy no matter what. If you're not happy doing something, it's not meant for you, or you need to change your environment, because as soon as you lose your happiness, everything is hard and everything is mentally draining. So that's massive. If we're doing basketball related, I would have told myself when I was younger, train differently and train like men.
Yeah.
I think we do now, but I know growing up, we weren't balling out and we weren't doing all those skills. We were doing basic 5-spot shooting and 1 dribble jumpers. Yeah. So go on YouTube, find all these crazy workouts, train like that. Like I remember you and I, before Flyers training, we would do some indies of just being like at cones, pow, pow, pow. Yeah. Pow, 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 pow. Woo, woo, woo.
Yeah. Pow, 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 pow. Yeah.
All this crazy stuff.
The fun stuff.
The fun stuff. And train differently all the time. Yeah. So if we're doing basketball, just change it up, be different, be chaotic. That's where you learn the skills as well.
That's where you grow.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a great segment to kind of go into. As females and as younger girls as well, we're so heavily compared to our male counterparts, right? So what do you think the main misconception about female athletes is, especially when it comes to basketball? Because, for me, it was like that we're not fun to watch, or that our basketball isn't as good.
Yeah.
But like, what do you think the main misconception is?
But it's that, right? That, oh, you guys are crap, you're nothing like the men. We don't play like the men.
Yeah.
Our style is completely different. If you're wanting athletic dunks and one-on-one, not team basketball and no defense, go watch them.
Yes. Slay. Yes, exactly.
But we're tactical, you know.
Yeah.
We actually have to play with more smarts because we don't have the athleticism to naturally get up there and windmill dunk it. So we're playing differently, but you come and watch, and it's exciting to watch because you have to run a play well for us to get a score. You know what I mean? Yes, you have your one-on-ones and all that stuff. I mean, watch Perth Lynx.
Yeah.
You guys are full of transition one-on-ones.
Transition and one-on-one.
We have scouted you already.
We play each other next week. 2 times in like 2 weeks. Anyway,
I know, it's wild.
Yeah.
I'm already tired thinking about it. Anyway.
So much travel. Anyway, sorry, digress.
Yes, I love it. This is why we need a coffee beforehand.
God
so we
damn
can
it.
get all our weirdness out. Anyway.
That's the point.
Yes.
Under the surface weirdness. It's just part of the whole scheme.
I lost my train of thought.
That's totally fine. I have a follow-up question for you.
Great.
So, you have brothers.
I do.
So, how do you find, like, the support from your brothers, who are also athletes, in the female sporting area? Because it's weird that, like, we need, as female athletes, we need the support of the men.
Yeah.
We need the support of the young boys.
Yeah.
We need to be seen as equals.
Yeah.
We, like, when I went to the Matildas game in Perth, like 2 weeks ago now, there was so many young boys at that game. You know how beautiful that was? I was like, they don't know that there's male and female soccer. They just see soccer. They see the Matildas and the Socceroos. And I'm like, as a sister with brothers, like, what has your experience been like with your brothers, and what would you encourage brothers and boys that have friends that are girls, like, what would you encourage in them to do to encourage women's sport?
Yeah. I mean, just coming to games helps. It's super helpful. And then just about how like a great example is Chris, my oldest brother. He works at a sporting school, Western Heights in Geelong. And so he coaches heaps of young women and men. And the way he has taught these young men, I'm calling them young men because they've grown up so much. They're not boys and they respect women and they can put women on a pedestal. And Chris has helped in that aspect where it's like, wow, women's basketball is so exciting. So I actually go in, and prior to the WNBA preseason, I was training against them, and they had so much respect for me playing against them. And that I've never really felt before, like especially school kids. Yeah. A lot of school kids can just be like, oh, I'm way better than you, blah, blah, blah. But they had so much respect for me. So I think it's just about trying to teach kids and teach the people or teach boys that you know or men that you know that, like, we're just as good and we're just as elite and you have to respect us as well. But again, it's hard because, you know, not everyone thinks like that. Yeah. And it is what it is. But if they can just keep coming to the games, like my brother was at the game, Mark, he was at the game on, when did we play our first home game? Sunday just gone. Yeah. And so that's great to see him there and supporting. He's terrible on his Instagram. He never posts anything. So maybe if he could throw a post up every now and then that he's supporting me, that would be great. That would be amazing. He loves it. Like, he genuinely loves it. And he comes to a few games and he brings his friends as well, and they all love it. So I think it's just getting it out and about and just teaching guys that women can do just as well.
How do you deal with the comparison? Like, do you compare yourself to... I don't know, like the success that your brothers have had in their sporting spaces?
No. Yeah. I say this to Mark all the time. Like, you play for Geelong, I play for Australia. Like, I'm sorry, what? There's no comparison here.
I've been to an Olympics.
Exactly right. You've got nothing on me. No, all three of us are very supportive with each other, which is great. It's honestly like such a great family, and growing up was such an awesome household. So I'm very supportive of Mark and all his basketball games. I go to every single one of Chris's 3-on-3 games or anything. Like, he's been doing triathlons and all that stuff, and I'll go and watch. Yes. I love supporting them big time. And they make a good effort. Mark could be a bit better, but Chris makes a pretty good effort of coming to most of my games. But they do watch a lot at home as well. So we've never compared. if anything, I think we're quite supportive.
Do you compare yourself to other athletes, like other basketball players, or even actually, do you compare yourself? I was just doing a solo episode on this. Do you compare yourself in your professional life? Like, have you found yourself comparing? And if you have, how have you kind of overcome that?
Yeah, I used to a lot when I was younger.
Yeah.
So it's funny. Yeah, this is so funny. I used to get quite jealous of players. So like maybe 4 years ago, if you killed it in a game and you're kind of my position, I'd be like, oh, I wish I was like that. Like, why, you know?
Yeah.
Since getting cut, honestly, like I don't care anymore. I'm just want the best for everyone. So I'm messaging people, not even in my team, being like, oh, I hope you do well, and like, look at doing like this stuff, and just trying to make everyone the best that they can be, you know, which I'm happy I'm out of that mental state, because it kills you when you start getting jealous and you start comparing yourself to others, you know. So I'm not like that anymore. I honestly just don't care, and it's only gotten to that point because of me getting cut from basketball, from both those teams, that I now am in a much relaxed, happier state, you know what I mean? Like, I have massive aspirations and goals, as we all do, of trying to make the Olympics next year, and I really hope I do. But if I don't, it is what it is. Yeah. You know? And as soon as you start trying to, compare yourself to others, and that's not how you play, you know? You just stick with what you're good at and what you do and what you bring. Business world, yes, I don't know how to not. Yeah. That kills me, but I've only just started and I'm learning, so I need to just go with it and keep learning, keep building and all that stuff. But you can't help but look at other sites and get negative. So I don't know how to get over that. If anyone has any tips, let me know.
Write it in.
I need to learn patience. That's what it is.
Yeah. I think that, like, what would be out of like the comparison game and like just trying to like get all of your stuff out there, what would be your biggest advice to people just wanting to start their own thing?
Business-wise? Yeah. Well, I started from scratch. So I've never done any uni courses or anything. Yeah. So I was really lucky where I just had good people around me that kind of knew what they were doing as well. So I seeked a lot of help, and that, I think, is the biggest thing. Ask a lot of questions, seek a lot of help. And don't think that you're annoying to others. Yeah. I would just pester. My brother's girlfriend, Georgia, she was a part of Summer Skin and started Summer Skin for a long time, and now she's running another business in furniture. And so I just hassle her nonstop.
Yeah, ask the questions.
Exactly right. You've got to ask. And they're always willing to help, which is great. And I think that's the biggest thing. You've got to ask questions, or else how are you going to know? Yeah. So that would be the biggest.
I like that.
Yeah.
I want to ask some questions in like the mental health space, because like we've touched on it a little bit. But I think, do you remember at a time in your career or your life, it can be sport related or not, that you experienced like your first bout with anxiety, or like the first time you were like, oh, like I'm getting pretty anxious about this? Yeah.
Massively. So when I came back from my knee injury, so I came back, I think it would have been the start of 2019 was when I came back. And that next WNBL season, I was super frazzled. I felt like my mind wasn't connected to my knee or my body, and I was just out of whack. And then I would start to play, like I would try too hard. You know that feeling of trying too hard, that you feel out of control, or you don't feel in touch with the ball, or when you hold the ball and you try and shoot, you know how your fingers feel like nervous?
They're just not a part of
They're not a part of it. And then you'll just launch the ball over the ring and all that stuff. And so I was getting really worked up, and then after games I would get quite upset with how I was playing, and really, really negative and really down on myself, which doesn't help anyone. So I actually went and saw a sports psych. Okay. And I was seeing him like weekly throughout that whole WNBL season. It was unreal. Yeah. And we did quite a lot of visualization. So we would go to where his place of work, and there would be like this pod, and he would put me in a borderline hypnosis. And any game, so I remember specifically, we played against Canberra Caps, and I played woeful. I think I only scored 1 point. And so I would sit in this pod. He put me into a bit of a hypnosis, and then he would get me visualizing my warm-up, being there to the point where you could smell the basketball. Like,
that's so wild.
It was unreal. And I'm just sitting there. I would sit there with the basketball in my hand, but I'd just be out of it. And then he would just make me relay any moves that I did. So I would do like a fake jab left, drive right, and I missed it. But in my head, I do it and I've made it. Okay. So at the end of this session, I feel like, no, the camera game was good. I played it right. You know what I mean? So
the power of the mind.
It's wild. And he taught me how to stay in that zone of not being too highly aroused, but not being too flat either.
Yeah.
Because when you're too flat,
you don't get the same.
There's no energy. When you're too highly aroused, you're out of control.
Yep.
So it was all about how I can get into this nice, happy space.
Yeah. You're not the first person that said that, actually.
Yes.
They're never too high, never too low. Stay somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. It took me a while. I still see my sports like all the time. So I've been with him for like 4 years and I still see him all the time about things. But it's not about that anymore, which is good. I know how to get myself ready for games now and just being stable, which is nice. So I don't have that overwhelming anxiety that you would prior to games.
What was your injury?
I went up for a layup at the end of 2017 and ruptured my ACL, pulled the meniscus root off the bone and fractured my knee. Woo!
Yeah,
basketball!
all of the above. Do you remember that moment like quite specifically? Or
oh my God, it was so painful.
Yeah.
I remember people being like, ACLs aren't painful. Like after 2 minutes, it just goes wrong. But the ACL was probably fine. It was the meniscus root not being on my kneecap anymore. That's probably what it was.
All the fracture in the bone. Could have been that.
Yes.
Do you remember the moment when you were told exactly what it was? Like, do you remember the feeling around that?
Well, when I went into the change room, they did all those tests and all this stuff. I'd never had a big injury up until this point. An occasional rolled ankle, that was it. I don't need to touch wood anymore.
Everyone touch wood in
but
the
just
room.
for future reference.
Future
Why do I say these things? Anyway,
yeah.
I've never been one to have massive injuries prior to this.
Yeah.
And so when I did it, I was like, oh no, it's just a dislocation. Like it's fine, I'll be right. Like I'll be out for a little bit, but it was just a dislocated knee. And then my physio told Dad, like it's most like an ACL. She picked it straight away.
Yeah.
And he took me home, and in the car on the way home, he said, like straight up, I was like, no, it's probably just a dislocation. He goes, I'm pretty sure you've done your ACL. Like just be prepared for that. And getting told that, it was super overwhelming because instantly your head goes to you're out for a whole entire 12 months.
Yeah.
That's where your head goes to. And I was playing some really good basketball at that point and had a really good chance of making the Worlds for the Australian team the next year. And so that was really tough knowing that that's in 8 months' time and
you're going to miss
I might not be there for that. Yeah. So that was really challenging. And then I guess you just change your mentality, like silver linings, right? It is what it is, and there's no point in being down about it anymore, or else it's going to be a long process if you're going to be sad the whole time. So it's like...
But how did you get to that? That's the part that, like, I think people listening, like, there was a lot of questions written in about injuries, post-injury. Yeah. How do you come back from a setback, that type of thing? If you can, try and verbalize that process towards... silver lining.
How do you do it?
Yeah.
I've always had a good attitude like that. Yeah. And Chris has always helped me. My oldest brother has always helped me with good, positive attitude.
Yeah.
And you just, like I said, I think I just already knew it. It's like, why be sad? You're out for that long. Why would I want to just sit back and get annoyed every single day for 365 days?
Yeah.
I just don't see the point, right? So it's like, how do you change your brain to think, what can I do to improve my basketball still at this point? So I was watching shitloads of film after that.
Yeah.
I never watched film. I started watching like NBL, WNBL, NBA, WNBA, all that stuff to try and make me smarter. I didn't really gym prior to that injury.
Yeah.
I would just gym the bare minimum to maintain my body, and that was it. And so I really bought into gym and I became a stronger athlete. I became a way better 3-point shooter because I was like, oh, well, now's a good time to like start again.
Yeah. Clean slate. Kind of,
And I get what you mean. Like, how do you get your mentality to that point?
To that point,
I don't know, except just changing it yourself.
Just kind of jump in.
Yeah. Jump in. Having a positive mindset rather than a negative one. If you're thinking that you're not going to get anywhere anymore after that, well, then you'll end up being like that.
Do you think there's an element of like, you fake it till you make it, kind of like you see this injury, and it could be any injury, and you know the time that you have out and you can see all the things that you should be doing, and you think, I'm just going to try.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what it is? You jump in and then like it's kind of persisting?
Yeah. I would say so too. And I was doing all the rehab perfectly and properly, but in saying that, I had 9 setbacks that whole year. I had
Yeah.
2 other surgeries on top of my first one. So like I was doing well, after 3 months had to have another surgery. Doing well, another 3 months I had to have another surgery.
Yeah.
So I had that many setbacks, but it is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
I'm that annoying person where when people just want to be sad or mellow and I'm
Yeah.
like, you'll be right. I'm
Yeah.
that kind of person, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? So sometimes it can get annoying.
That's the best type. It's the best type.
People need to be in their feels though.
Yeah.
And I definitely was. I definitely
Yeah,
was.
for sure.
But I also surrounded myself, well, naturally, like my family really positive anyway, but you just surround yourself with people that actually uplift you and see the brighter side in life.
Yeah.
And those are the people in my life. So being that positive was quite easy for me.
So how did you get to like trusting your body again? That was the visualization stuff. Do you think that helped you in like your outside of sport life, in your ability to handle just everyday things?
Yeah, I'd say so. I definitely think so. It was the hardest mental battle I've had that whole year. Like it was challenging as when all you want to do is play, and especially after an ACL, your knee actually feels all right after 6 months.
Yeah.
Like if you don't know what's wrong with you and why you're not allowed to play when you're feeling fine, that's the tough part. So everyone goes through that when they've done the ACL. It's like, I'm fine. Why am I not allowed to play? And doctors and physios are like, you're not allowed to yet. You're just not allowed to, all that stuff. What helped me, is that what you said?
Yeah,
like Chris Blitzhalves.
Yeah. Actually, massive plug to that guy, because he, not just you, this man fixed my back.
Yeah.
When I got back from college, I could not touch my toes.
Yeah.
I had 3 circumferential bulges, couldn't touch my toes, and I don't know what magic, he like connected my brain with my body again. He was amazing. Did the same for you and Marina, actually.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, just great. Again, surrounding yourself with good people. I'm lucky that he's my brother, and as soon as I did my knee, this is wild, he was commentating that game and he picked it straight away. That weekend, he signed himself up for an ACL course to expand his knowledge on, like, because he was strength and conditioning at that point, but that weekend he'd already signed up for an ACL course, so he knew what he's doing for when I came back. So I'm lucky I had good people in my life.
So cool.
Yes, yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah, exactly right.
Damn.
And also to help get through it, go on a holiday.
Yeah.
And I did a couple of those as well.
A couple of those holidays.
Well, you get so stuck in like rehab, that it's like just go and chill out for a little bit.
Circuit breakers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so looking forward for you, like if you were to say, like, are you a goal person? Do you have goals?
I do in a way, yes.
What's coming up for you? Or what are you focusing on at the moment?
Yeah, no, that's good. I want to make the Olympics next year. And I want in 5 years' time for my business, I could easily just fall into it and retire from basketball.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that.
Yes.
What do you think the importance...
And I want a beach shack.
Oh, the beach shack is like the most important out of all of those,
like
actually.
Point Road night or something down that way.
Ooh, I love Point Road night.
Yeah. Or next to your mumsy down in OG.
Yeah. Yeah. So side quest conversation here. My mum all the time tells me that she sees Sarah on the beach.
Yes.
And has now not only bought multiple sets of Sarah's underwear and sends me pictures of her wearing it, like, oh, I look so good in this underwear. But she's now recruited all of her friends in the OG to be like, oh, do you guys know about this underwear? You got to get on this underwear.
Kaz.
So now mum and all of her friends, whole friendship group, are wearing your underwear.
Yes. She has done a phenomenal job, and she sent me those pictures.
Yeah, I know. She told me, she was like, do you think it's a bit risque? And I was like,
No.
nah, mum, send it through.
I want to post it, but
Yeah.
I'm too nervous to ask it. So if she's listening to this, can I post it?
I think her answer will be yes.
She
But
looks hot as.
she looks so good.
She sent me a video. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, what? Can you model for me next time, please?
Unreal.
Yes.
Unreal. Yeah, also, I'm wearing it today.
Yeah. Little Sara Kristi's.
Little Sara Kristi's. They're kind of the best. Where did my side quest go from there? Oh yeah,
Goals.
There was
5 years
goals.
time.
Goals. There was a couple of questions here about setting yourself up post basketball. Advice time for younger athletes, younger girls, younger boys, because sometimes they get stuck in the basketball thing.
Yep.
What's your advice to them about creating a larger sense of self and larger sense of career goals outside of just being on court?
Again, it's hard to listen to advice until you want to listen to advice.
True.
So I knew I had to do stuff 7 years ago. I didn't want to.
Yeah.
So that's why, I mean, until something happens to you, you'll just naturally realize. So I guess the best thing that you can do is just guide.
Yeah.
And try and usher them in a way towards that. Just knowing that your career can just end one day. Like you're playing sport and injury or confidence or you've just had enough. It can just end one day. And at that point, what are you going to do? Yeah. So it's not necessarily like you need to, and I'm not an advocate for uni, I've never been, but I low-key think it's a waste of money unless you want to be a doctor or a lawyer. But other than that, I think like experience is the best thing.
Experience for sure.
Yeah, and go dabble. It will make you a better athlete by having something else to do on the side as well. Even you doing this whole podcast stuff, it's like, yes, we're talking about basketball, but like you're broadening your skills and talents as well in another field. So you played yesterday, you guys lost yesterday, but here you are thinking about this now. You're not even thinking about the game. So it's like having a distraction on the side, dabble in a few areas and get work experience here, there and everywhere and see what you like and what fields what you like. You don't necessarily have to study, but if you can just kind of experience, you know what, post-basketball, I could potentially be a firefighter. Yeah. Or I could do this, or I don't mind being here. Maybe I could like seek some experience here. And I know a lot of clubs now are pretty good at helping with that stuff.
Yeah. Like ABPA has all their own avenues exactly and everything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's this like, the way that I think about it as athletes, we have a lot of passion. Otherwise, how the hell are we doing this every day? Yeah. We have a lot of passion. I don't know where it comes from. Lots of people have different drivers. And for me, the way that I think about this passion is we can drive it into other areas, like to create something. Yeah. So for me, like playing basketball, I also need to have a passion outlet of creating something. Could be, this is my baby. I love these conversations. Yeah. This is my energy. But I think of when I walk off the court, where is my creative energy going? Yeah. And if it's just sitting there being all dormant, I usually then will switch back to then thinking about what I just did on the basketball court. Yeah. But if I finish and I'm thinking, I need to create, I need to do something, I need to put my energy into something that's going to create something, and whether it's starting a clothing line, whether it's underwear business, whether it's podcasting, whether it's, I don't know, I mean, I'm a massive reader, we know that, my fantasy novels, but like whatever it is, like being able to put your energy as athletes, all of that passion into other places makes it easier to just exist in this high demand environment. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think it's definitely something that you need to get used to, because you say, like, where does this passion come from? Do you think it's because right from an early age we went to the Institute of Sport and it was training. So you've just learnt to be at that high level the whole time. So now when we try and take a break, like I know if I take a week off, I'm so uneasy and uncomfortable.
Oh my God, right?
I don't know what to do with myself.
Right.
I have one day off and I'm like, I think I need to go for a run.
What is an off day?
I don't know.
Why are we so bad at it?
Yes, exactly right.
Actually, that's a great question. Why are we so bad at
having time off? Because we're just so highly aroused and adrenaline junkies, almost playing at that level, training at that level all the time, that as soon as you stop, your body's like, where is my fitness? Or why am I not moving? Or why am I not sore? I feel like that's what it is, because we're so drilled that way. It's the most uncomfortable thing. Like
it is.
Yeah, you go away and you have 2 days off, and I'm like, I can't sit for more than 2 hours. Like I need to go for a walk or go and do something.
This is a great segue question, actually. Yes. So how do you turn your brain off?
No, I actually have the answers to this.
Yes! Okay, tell us the answers to these.
This is my favourite thing to do. This is so Sarah. You're going to love this.
So Sarah.
So I love, this is honestly my quickest way to switch off, and it works for me. It might not work for everyone else, but for me it does.
This is your question.
I will light a candle, light some incense, have my crystals out. I'll water my plants, because you've got to nurture other things as well, right? And I'll journal with good music, like RYXRY. ex. Oof, he's got some good music too. Actually, you would really like him. I'll send you some songs after this.
Sarah's my music plug.
Absolutely. Yeah. Follow me on Spotify, please. Sara Blicavs.
It's great. I've actually put other people onto your Spotify playlist.
I love this.
House Raving is my favorite one. Anyway, keep talking about how you turn
That's definitely not the one we listen to while we're trying to switch off. But journaling has just been one of my favorite activities, and I do that all the time. I just get all my thoughts out. I'm not talking about, dear diary, today I did this. It's like what I'm feeling, my emotions, what I go through, blah, 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 and then I always end on positive. But just zoning out, stretching, watering my plants, burning incense, listening to like Enigma, Ryak's good music. Yeah. And just like lying, my lounge room in my house in Geelong is just like my little spiritual area. Yeah. I've got all that stuff, all my plants, everything. So I just love that whole, just lying on the carpet there and just being present.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you use the Chase Your Greatness journal?
I did at the start and I don't anymore. I mean, yes, I use it every day.
I use my journal every day. Yeah.
In saying that, because I was already a journaler.
This is true.
I didn't really necessarily need that because I wasn't really doing that stuff. I was doing my own way.
I would plug that it helped me start journaling.
There you go.
I started using the Chase Your Greatness journal to kind of train my brain to actually do it.
Yeah.
And then now I feel like when I'm on the road and I don't have it, I can just journal. Like when I'm on a plane, when I fly back to Perth tonight, I'll journal, and it taught me how to journal.
Yes.
Because it's really hard when you don't know how to write stuff down.
Exactly right.
And someone's like, here, journal, talk about your feelings. And you're like, dear diary. And you're like, no, that's actually,
it's not it.
You have to train your brain to be able to put everything down onto paper.
That's the thing. You have to, you have to get into the habit of doing it, but you have to know what suits you best. And I'm going to plug you here because you started, it's so funny that you say Chris started, because you started my journaling career. I'm going to say 2 or 3 years ago, you said to me that you were writing down things that made you happy that day.
Yeah. Noticing the 3 things.
Yeah. And so I started doing that as soon as you told me to do that. I started doing it, right? So it would be every night I had my book next to my bed and then I would just write down, even if it was only one thing. You could have the worst day ever, but then you go, oof, that golden syrup coffee that I had this morning, that liquid drop was so yum. Yeah. That could be the only moment of happiness, but you write it down because then you go, oh, my day wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
right?
My psychologist told me to do that. Yeah. She said eventually it trains your brain, and like if you don't have the space to write it down, actually this is a great tip for people listening. If you don't have the space to write it down, you can literally just say it out loud in a voice memo. 3 positive things or 3 good things that happened to you that day, because then over a time of period of 2 weeks, your brain will then start to try and look for things to write down later, and then by training yourself to start to look for things, you then start looking for happiness. It's like a hack. It's like a biohack.
It's so good
for looking for positive things in the day. I remember one of my first things, it was when I was in a really down space. It was I was trying to, my psych was write down 3 things that happened that day that was good, and I was I cried the whole day. What was I can't it's impossible. She's like, it's possible. Find one thing. And my one thing, the first day of doing that was I liked the way that my cup of tea felt really warm in my hands.
That's so nice.
That was my first thing.
And see how it just made you smile then? You're like, oh, that's such a nice feeling.
That was so nice. And then the next day, it grew from that to something really silly. When I got out of the shower, I put on a fresh pair of socks.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. Ooh. It's a great feeling. I know.
And so
today I woke up and my eyebrows were in place.
Yes.
Nice.
The best. But I don't know. You just train your brain to doing that type of stuff. And I do think for anyone listening, that's actually I should have said this way earlier. That 3 things, it's super important.
Yeah.
But then you when you become an experienced journaler or meditator or whatever, you kind of naturally fall into that pattern of noticing. Yeah. But it's the art of noticing, right?
And you know what's crazy? Just we're on this topic for a long time, but I love it so much. I'm such a big advocate for this stuff. People get, and this is so crazy to me because I was like this too. When you first start journaling, people get embarrassed at their own thoughts. Yep. So people write it down. No one else is in the room. Yep. It's just them and their book, and they read it and they're embarrassed. Yep. And it's just you. So I think when you overcome that kind of fear of like, oh, I don't want to write that down because it's so embarrassing. And like, I guess it's confronting yourself and holding yourself accountable, writing how you feel, and you're like, oh, I feel like that. You know, once you get over that,
being honest with yourself is harder than being honest with other people.
But you get into the habit, and it's so easy and it's so refreshing. When I'm frazzled or sad, I will then journal, and I just feel amazing afterwards.
It's actually the best.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so last
nice.
question. So lovely.
Oh, it's such a nice.
See, this is why we didn't need to have coffee beforehand, because this is our coffee. We should have brought coffee to this.
Yeah.
Anyway, last question. What do you think that, like, what's something about you that people don't know? Actually, that's my second last question. I've got another one after that.
The fun facts. How sentimental do you want? Do you want like just
anything?
Like, anything. Do you want under the surface? Do you want on the surface?
Give me both. Give me one of
like my oldest brother Chris and I are born on the same day, Feb 15th. But 4 years apart. Hello.
You know, that fact, I thought they were twins for a really long time.
Yes, a lot of people do. Yep. A lot of people do think that. I like crystals. And I like wearing beads and crystals.
Yep.
Yes.
Love that about you. You got me into crystals.
Yay.
She's a crystal
and you stole my salt lamp.
Yep. I did steal your salt lamp. I stole it at a Santa Snatch at the Flyers. She bought it for herself and she wanted to steal it, and I stole it right back. That's great. I still have that salt lamp in my house in Bendigo.
There you go. Yeah, it's beautiful. Salt lamps are great.
Yeah.
Other than that, I feel like most people know quite a lot about me.
Okay, so this might help you answer this question. How do you think people see you versus who you actually are, and do you think there's a gap between the two?
Oh, that's really good. I don't think people probably see me as very serious, and I'm not, but I can actually like enter that kind of...
You're deep
realm, which we're kind of in anyway.
Yeah.
But honestly, like how you see me is literally how I am.
Yeah.
Like I am bubbly and up and about and warm and welcoming. Well, I would hope so.
You are.
I try and, I mean, my parents raised me right, and I just, like I said, I'm a big advocate for confidence and happiness and positivity, because the world can be so shit. So it's nice to just have like some bright sunshine in your life, right?
I think that there's a difference between being like, the misconception of being like bubbly and fun and trying to enjoy yourself doesn't mean you're shallow.
Yes.
You know, the two don't exist mutually exclusive, like being deep and being a thinker and a feeler, and also being bubbly and happy and experiencing joy and being able to experience depth are not mutually exclusive. Like
exactly,
they live together in this
they do.
nice little realm, which is really nice.
Because like I do, like we all get down and we all feel emotions and all that stuff, but I just find quick ways to get out of it, because I personally don't like being in that space, you know what I mean? So it's all different.
No, I love it. Well, God, I love you, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
I really enjoyed
Thanks for having
this.
me.
This was really great. Yeah. And I also think that like the more conversations we can have as female athletes about our experiences, and then also like humanizing the athlete, like who you are, like a lot of the questions are like athlete formed, but like it lets us know about who is Sara?
Yeah.
Like you're in your 15th year of the WNBL, and let's learn more about you as a person. Yeah. Like your business, like so bloody cool, man. Like it is so inspiring. It really is. Like I am a big supporter of people starting their new ventures. Like as soon as you launched, I was like, I'm in. Yes. And I want. And now I love them. And it's like the only underwear I wear. And like, I just think that I watched you start playing when I was a junior. Yeah. And I've gotten to play with you now. And now we're on, like, it's really cool for me to have these experiences. Like I've experienced Opals Sara, I've experienced Southside Sara, I'm now experiencing Boomers Sara.
Are they different or are they the same?
Nah, different. But you're still like, you're you. Yeah. You're such a bubbly light person, and it's really pleasant. It is.
Thank you.
And it's really, you are an energy giver, not an energy taker. And when I asked you that question of how people see you versus who you actually are, I think that everyone sees you as an energy giver.
Yeah.
Because that's who you are.
Oh, that's very nice. Thanks. I'm going to go away so happy.
That's what I'm here for. But anyway, this was Under the Surface with Sara Blicavs, your host, Anneli and Maley, pumped by Reebok. And I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Thank you so much, Sara.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.